Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another installment of the Rundown. So, um, yeah, we're going live again, and as you can see, I'm back home. Um, yeah, sorry for a couple of things in advance. Let's see, I'm not my camera's a little laggy, and I'm not sure what's going on with that. I was trying to mess with the settings, so sorry about that. And then what else do I have? Oh, well then we're just back, right? What can I tell you guys? The start of the year has not panned out the way I had intended to. Um, at this point, I expected to have tons of videos out. I expected to be streaming, obviously with Fabs. Shout out to Fabs Figures. But I was expecting to be streaming a lot more, and then life just hit. Right, the end of last year to the beginning of this year was just kind of crazy. I went down with the flu hard. My voice went away. I had to go away from work. My wife ended up getting the dreaded COVID. So it was just insanity, and it feels like things are just finally getting back to normal. I have a ton of backlog of figures as well that we'll have to just see how things end up going. But reviews are coming back. So if in case you thought that I was done with reviews and I was retiring, I'm not retiring. Um, so reviews are coming back. It's going to be a lot of videos to make. Again, just life got in the way. That's kind of the way it is. But I did want to talk to you guys about a couple of things, right, and go over some really exciting news as well. So I think without further ado, I think the way I'm going to break it out up, let's go into releases, right? Because Hot Toys always have some interesting stuff, and even though there's some things that I'm not going to pick up, and we'll get into that a little bit, it's always fun to discuss what's out there because, right, as collectors, ultimately, um, part of the appeal is, at least to me, is always been, um, just looking at what's out there. Um, I always tell you guys on my videos and in my news stories, right, that if I had unlimited funds, I'd probably have pick up almost every figure, especially every Hot Toys figure. Hot Toys is awesome, right? Even from IPs that I'm not crazy about. But unfortunately, budget is a concern. It always is, right? So we'll get into that a little bit. But I always appreciate figures for what they are, right? Even if they're not from licenses that I particularly like collecting, when a figure is done really well, and I'm laughing because I'm already seeing the comments coming in from you, you got from Nefty and Fabs. All right, and then that's the second thing I'm going to apologize for. I'm not a streaming professional by any means. I have no idea how to even do the little what is it the little image to kind of advertise this thing. So we'll see how it goes, and let's see if I can navigate the chat even better. Let's see if I can actually show these on stream. There you go. So Nefty, my friend, uh, thanks for joining. I know it's a late stream. This is the only time I usually have to do stuff on Sunday after I've done all my chores for the day and whatnot. And of course, Mr. Fabs himself, the man, the myth, the legend, the veteran over here. Um, I swear to you, one day I will get this. One day I will get to actually. I'll get better at this. I'll get better at this. I can't be like you. You're what 300 plus streams in. You're a pro at this point, right? So I'm just an amateur by comparison. So we'll get into it. But yeah, going back to things, I just definitely want to go. Um, I like going over figures, right? Hot Toys does some incredible things. All these other companies, even third party, and yes, some of you call me the third party veteran too, as a little bit of a joke. But I do find some positives there. At one point, somebody said I was I exhibited toxic positivity. So that might be true a little bit, but we'll see. So. Um, Thanks, Nefty. It's good to have at least a couple of you joining. I'm gonna get there at some point. At some point, man. And yes, Fabs is the man. He knows that. He completely knows that. So, look, since I have both of you going in here, and we're probably going to discuss a lot of the same stuff on Tuesday, which I am hoping to make it. But yeah, let's just get into it. So let's start. I said hi to the two of you that are joining, or four people joining. So welcome for this late night edition. The way this thing is going to run, the way I'm kind of imagining it, it's going to be kind of off the fly. I don't know that I'm going to have a scheduled type of. No, I'll be on Fabs. I'll be back this Tuesday finally. Um, but the way this is going to go going forward is that I'm actually going to hope to do streams on Sundays into I guess Monday, just for a little bit before I have to um, go back to sleep. And of course, I have my 9 to 5 that I have to get to tomorrow. Um, but it's going to be kind of more of an unscheduled, just random drop. Not sure how well that's going to go. Um, I'll see if I could post the link. I still have to figure out how to do that, but we'll get into it. So look, let's start with let's do the announcements again, right? So let's start with, how do I do this? I haven't done this in a while, so now I feel like I'm out of practice. But let's start with this guy, Captain Enoch from Ahsoka. Now, um, and the reason I'm starting with this is because I think this is probably one of the biggest topics that I usually have to kind of think about a little bit, and that is, um, more than anything, it's, you know even for great looking figures like this, and they're simple, right? They're not, um, this guy in particular. I've always told you, the armored um, troopers from Star Wars are something that, I guess, for Star Wars fans, are like Iron Man suits for Marvel fans, right? There are so many of them that just continue to drop at this point. Um, I wouldn't even know where to begin. And for me, it's just repetitive, because I don't have that appreciation, right? But and I mean, I don't know the IP enough to know the differences between all the different units, right? I know a couple of the key players, but and obviously everybody knows the standard stormtroopers. The only familiarity I have with this is because I watched the show. So that's why this one is a little bit different, where I can actually speak a little bit to it. But this goes into budget, right? And as beautiful as this figure is, because I think it looks great, right? I know I've seen the comments, right? If people aren't fans of this Ahsoka show, um, then this figure doesn't seem to be very appealing to them. But one of the first standout things when this came out for pre-order was, and when we saw it on the screen, was the difference in the helmet, right, with that face. Immediately sets him apart from everything else we've gotten. Look, the suit is very interesting, right? Still has that very distressed look to it, and I like the gold pattern. Even the blaster with the little gold accents, right? It sets him apart from the other characters, and I do like the Imperial logos on the forehead. But beyond that, he's a trooper. Is he a variant of a trooper? Absolutely, right? The skirt, the pauldrons he has, um, very different, right? The gold accents again, very unique. It sets him apart, right? And that's where a figure like this really stands to me. And like I said, if budget were no issue, I would have probably jumped on this. I did jump on a lot of the Ahsoka figures, but I decided to stay away from the troopers. And we're going to get into this a little bit more when we get into the announcements for this week, which is, there is so much coming out right now, right? And shout out to Fabs, who's on the stream, right? Yesterday he mentioned that we do talk a lot about Marvel in particular, right? I'm a bit that Marvel is my IP. Marvel is the thing I collect, and what allowed me to get into Star Wars this year was that there was that lull in Marvel where, besides Deadpool and Wolverine, we were getting nothing, and then of course Hot Toys started hitting us with 2.0s, which we're going to talk about a little bit as well. But that's what allowed me to get into Star Wars, because I did have a little bit extra budget to be able to spend. I don't think that's going to be the case this year, and I don't think it's just Hot Toys. Hot Toys is going to be one of the primary culprits for that, but we're going to talk about a bunch of other companies coming in that are definitely jumping in with that nostalgia effect, right? Especially if you're someone like me that grew up in the 80s and the 90s. They're definitely appealing to some of those memories, especially as a movie fan. So look, as beautiful as this figure looks, because I do think he looks great, this is one I'm going to have to pass on. And I think you're going to start seeing, for me, that I have to cut something, and unfortunately, at this point, it's going to be Star Wars, right? I know there are a lot of Star Wars fans out there, but it's very you can't let this hobby kind of take over at times, and as much as I'd love to collect everything, you just can't, right, reasonably. So I think it's a great release. I think if you're a Star Wars fan, if you're an Ahsoka fan, this is awesome. I can't wait to see some of these videos drop from you guys and some of the pictures, but I'm gonna have to live vicariously through you, because for me right now, they're just not in budget, and I'm just getting ready because um, things are just continuing to come. It's like an onslaught of releases at this point. Um, let's see what else we got. Let's see what else we got. Let me catch up with the two of you. uh, Random is an understatement. It is. It is. I don't know. There are going to be days when I'm going to do it at 9. There are days when I'm going to do it at 10. I don't know that I'm going to do it beyond midnight, because then my old ass is going to go right to sleep. I don't want to be falling asleep on the stream. Yeah, Nefty, I'm with you, man. I mean, we already saw how deep into the line Hot Toys went in with Ahsoka, and they're going in with the troopers, even from the flashback scenes. We know that Ahsoka season 2 is coming. We know they're going to do more troopers, right? Um, See, this is why you're the veteran, Fabs. The Death Troopers came with the same blaster they gave K2SO. This is why you're the veteran. You collect all this stuff, so appreciate it. Um, yeah, variants are easy money at this point, just like with Star Wars, just like with Iron Man, right? Um, they're a quick buck to be made, and I think what sets that Captain Enoch apart is just he's very different. Um, oh, I'm gonna tell you about my Winter Soldier, and I'm sure we're gonna talk about this on Tuesday with Fabs, because this is gonna be. I had a very positive experience, and it seems very contrary to what everybody else had. So that's definitely the thing. Send them. I'll help you get some of those exclusives. I have no problem helping my friends in the community getting those exclusives. Absolutely, that's. Well, I am talking about myself right now. uh, yeah, Exo 6 2. Look, we're gonna get into them a little bit, and there's a figure we're gonna go into. Um, Even beyond the TV shows, and I'll get into this with some of the figures I want to talk about. But even beyond, for Exo 6, just as a small digression, they start with the Voyager crew. Obviously, they're getting very much into the Deep Space Nine and Next Generation crews right now. But what I think is really captivating at this point are the movie figures, right? We're getting the Wrath of Khan figures. We started getting them, right? We got Uncharted, from Star Trek 6, from the last one, from the Undiscovered Country, right? We're getting some key characters there, and I think we're getting them in that iconic red uniform too. So if you're looking for a figure that's going to have a visual pop at this point, and definitely again tugs on those nostalgia strings, it's going to be from that original crew: Captain Kirk, Spock, Bones, Uhura, Chekhov, Scotty, from that original series, and then from the movies in particular. That's where they're really going to stand out, because those movies were excellent. There were a couple that I wasn't a big fan of, but that trilogy of movies, starting from the Wrath of Khan, the Search for Spock, and then Voyage Home, right? That trilogy was incredible, right? Star Trek 5, which was the one where they kind of, or Star Trek 2, 3, 4. Sorry, clearly maybe I'm a little too tired to be doing this, but there's just a lot there, right? So, and they're teasing a lot, so it's gonna be time to budget and consider things very carefully. So, keeping that in mind, let's go back to the next release really quickly. We'll just touch on these quickly. Let's see what else we got from Hot Toys as well. Let's see. We already talked about Enoch. Since I want to keep this a little short, because I'm probably gonna start fading. Let's go right into announcements, and I'm gonna start with the older announcements first, because there are things I wanted to talk about. Let's start with Rain Carradine. So I watched the movie. Movie is phenomenal. It's probably my third favorite, right? It's Aliens, the James Cameron sequel. Um, that one is just the top for me in the series, followed very closely by the Ridley Scott classic Alien, right? And when we talk about nostalgia, those are movies that look, in the 80s, I had an older sister who loved the horror movies, and I probably watched a lot of these movies when I was much younger than I should have been. But I love these. I love the science fiction aspect, right? The storyline. Aliens was great because even though it had those horror elements, it leaned heavily into that typical James Cameron action, um, those action beats, right? And not only that, the characters, right? Starting from Ripley becoming that, she's the hero clearly, but you know, it's not. It's a natural evolution of the character. James Cameron, Sigourney Weaver, the entire production really made that character stand out. And then, of course, you have the great characters like Hicks, Hudson, Vasquez, um, Newt. Right, that story just came together. Alien, just the sense of dread from the very opening scene in that movie. Again, Sigourney Weaver doing a great job to the 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 android played by I forget the guy's name, but he obviously makes an appearance here in Alien Romulus. Spoilers, but that was great. So I'm not even going to talk about Alien 3 or Alien Resurrection, but for me, this movie, watching it just hits those beats, right? It hit the horror elements. There's a lot of great moments, some great death scenes, and then it still also hits on the action sequences. So the reason I'm saying that is I love the movie, and when they announced that they were doing the Xenomorph, I already ordered that one, had to have it, and I was surprised that they announced Rain because she's a character that I thought was great in the movie, but I just didn't think Hot Toys was gonna jump in on, and then they did. So very excited to get her. I already pre-ordered her. Having said that, and it's strange to say, I don't see the likeness to the actress here. Um, I see it to a degree in some of the pictures, and I'm trying to find one. Right, even here, straight up, I just don't see the likeness. And I think this is probably the closest one where we get to see the actress. And I think her face might be a little too rounded. I think it needs to be a little longer. Um, and her eyes, I think, were a different color in the movie. I would tell you, this is what you're going to get, but Hot Toys has been surprising us at this point where they've been doing improvements on figures people haven't even asked for. Two immediate ones that come to mind are Mantis and Rocket, right? The last version of Rocket. Nobody had asked for any updates, and then Hot Toys just decided to improve the sculpts. Do I think there's a possibility they'll improve on her? I definitely hope so. I do hope so. I don't think it's 100% guaranteed, but this is a new Hot Toys we're seeing, where they're making improvements without people asking about it. Sometimes people aren't happy with the improvements, but I think overall we've seen things like Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? There was a huge outcry on that one. We've seen them do those improvements on these figures, so I think it depends on how well this sells. But beyond that, and I know it's a big thing. I just had to have this figure, right? And I like that she comes with the pulse rifle with the automated the assist. I thought that was a great scene. It would have almost been great. I do like I'm a sucker for diorama pieces, so I like that you're getting pieces of the xenomorphs and the face huggers. And I forget they gave them a different type of name in the movie that was interesting, right? They definitely advanced the mythology a little bit. I would have almost liked to have, and again, we're talking spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, sorry about that, but it's been out for a while at this point. But it would have been nice to have some kind of those floating acid effects. That was, to me, one of the highlights of the movie, was that scene where they're basically floating through the remnants of the acid blood from the xenomorphs in Zero G. So I thought that was great. Look, even the watch, everything that they did here, from the accessories to the little device she uses to fix Andy, right? It's all well done. To me, it just comes down to the sculpt. The hair looks great. Hot Toys kills it with the sculpted hair. Um, to me, it just comes down to they need to improve that sculpt a little bit. Um, I just, I mean, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, right? Tell me if I'm wrong. Do you guys think that I'm wrong when it comes to this one? Because I don't, I don't, I don't know. There's just something that's a little bit off on the sculpt. Again, even with that, and when it comes to collecting decisions, right? Part of me is asking who's ever going to make this figure again, right? I'm hopeful because this was a success. I think they're making a sequel to it, and I'm expecting that she's going to make an appearance again because I think people liked the movie and people liked her character. So there's always a chance for another one, but that would be way down the line. So for me, this is one of those characters, and one of these characters that I had to pick up. And when it comes to collecting, you've got your standard IPs, right? I've got my Marvel, I've got my, certain Damn Toys licenses, the Gangsters Kingdom line that I collect. But then you've got to be careful with these one-offs, and we're going to talk about one-offs because that's pretty much what the rest of the stream is going to be about. You're going to have these characters that are going to come out from movies that you like that might not have a huge line of figures being released from them, but that you really want to get because you have a connection to the movie, right? It helps that I love those Alien movies, those original two, and that this was a great continuation of that story, or kind of interjected in the middle of those two stories. So for me, this is a character I have to have, even with the scope that I don't think is 100% there. So very happy and very excited to get this one. But again, I'm not going to lie to you. I do think that the sculpt needs a little bit of work. So let me catch up with you, Fabs. Let's not talk about. No, I have to. I have to share my positive experience with Winter Soldier. Right, I have to. Nefty's still on. I know. I know you had a terrible experience, Brad. It's an awesome movie. I honestly, as somebody who loves the those original two movies, that was a great continuation, right? I there are things I appreciate. I appreciate what Alien 3 and what David Fincher was trying to do with that. And I know the stories with all the interference he had essentially from the studio. So I know it wasn't the movie that he necessarily wanted. It's just a gut punch of a movie, right? Sigourney Weaver does great, but it's and it's grown on me, but it's one of those that I don't like to revisit that much because it's a gut punch. Everything that the main character has gone through in the previous movies it is for naught, and then she ends up obviously sacrificing herself at the end. It's a great conclusion, if not a little bit bleak. And then of course, Alien Resurrection was, it was a little bizarre, the tone of that one as well. Nefty, yeah, movie was definitely great. And like you said, there's something off with the scope, but for me, it was definitely going to be a pre-order. So that's definitely not going to be an issue. So let's see. Mitchell Lawrence, hey, welcome. Thanks for watching. Yeah, Rain and the Scorched Xenomorph definitely coming home as well. I've already pre-ordered both of them. Those two are definitely pre-ordered, so we'll see how that goes. I think they're going to turn out great. So that was Rain. And look, before jumping into the rest of them, it's kind of how I collect, right? I collect based on nostalgia to a degree and connection to the IP. So that's why Marvel is a big thing for me, because I was reading the comic books, and once you see those characters translated to the big screen and to movies and having cinematic versions of them, that was pretty awesome to see. And for me, even Marvel's taken a life of its own. Even if the movies aren't good or the shows aren't good, I've got so many of those Marvel figures. Now it just becomes me adding an additional character into the collection, even if the movie isn't great. So, for example, we've got Captain America: Brave New World incoming. So at this point, at some point in time, maybe in the next after Chinese New Year, maybe that's going to be one of the first announcements off the bat, a new Captain America. Then I think we're going to get a Red Hulk. Absolutely, and maybe a Falcon. So if we get those three, the movie might be terrible. I'll tell you right now. I don't think it will be. I know it went through a lot of drama behind the scenes, but those figures, even if the movie's terrible, there's no way I'm passing on a Red Hulk. There's no way I'm passing on a new Falcon. That's a new character, a new version of the character, just because it's gonna look great on the shelf and it's gonna continue to populate that collection. But again, movies like Alien, Romulus, right, definitely hit a bit of a nostalgic note. And that's the other thing about how I collect, right? I'm a huge movie fan, and you're going to see that with some of the other figures we're going to talk about. If I like a movie, especially if it's one of those older movies from the 80s and 90s that I grew up watching, then I'm definitely going to want to get those. And that's where decision making has to come in, right? But let's keep going and let's talk about what else do we have? Also from Hot Toys, you know what? Let's jump into the guy, the figure of the hour, the Winter Soldier Artisan Edition. Look, we saw this teased before, so it's not surprising. I know that some people think that the sculpt is off. I actually think that sculpt is pretty much. I think that sculpt is there. Maybe the only thing I could tell you is the hair is maybe a little too puffy. Maybe, but I look from the detail. This is, I mean, this looks like Bucky, right? I think I know people are saying it looks like Tom Cruise. I think the likeness is there. Um, I won't give it 100%. Maybe there's something, maybe it's not completely there, but it's pretty good. I think it's a pretty good sculpt. And if anything, I would expect this to be something that Hot Toys would fix, especially if there's a backlash, which I think there has been, right? But look, I own the original. I love that figure. One of the biggest issues, and I think everybody who has that figure has experienced it, is the flaking of the pleather suit. Right, for me, and I'm trying to find a picture. So there is a strap that connects. Let me see if they're actually showing it. But there's a little strap that connects here. You can kind of see it to his shoulder and his elbow. Sorry, that one came off on mine, and then I'm starting to get a little pleather deterioration on the arm, and that's unfortunate because I was dumb and I kept the figure posed for years and something like this with the rifle. So it's probably my own fault that's happening. But this looks great. Now, as far as the experience, look, um, I've been very, very lucky with the Q system from Sideshow. Every figure that I've gone for, every artisan one, I've had very little issue with. Right, I logged in on this one. I had two. I had my phone and I had the computer. Um, and I managed to get on the phone. I was like, when that one popped up, I was like number 4,000, and that was the moment where I did panic a little bit. And then on the computer, I was about 700. So went through, got the special edition with the shield. So look, it's not me trying to tell you guys, rub it in anybody's face. I just had a good experience with it. But I know from just what everybody's been saying that this was a bit of a challenge for people to get. And I know even talking to Fabs that he said he had a low number and he thought there was going to be no issue. And then at some point he basically ended up getting booted and he just couldn't put it in his cart. So yeah, Sideshow's got to fix whatever issues are happening. I've just been lucky at this point. I think the only figure that gave me the only artisan that gave me a bit of a problem was the Harley Quinn. That one, for some reason, I kept trying to check out, and it kept the site just kept going down, and I kept thinking I'm gonna miss out, and then that order finally went through, but that was probably the only one that I missed out on. God Loki, I made it through the queue. I had an opportunity to pick him up. The cost to me was just, and I know the artisans are the top of the line right now, but to me, the cost difference between that and the standard was way too much for what you were getting. You know, so that was one where I decided to just go with the standard DX. Am I going to regret it down the road? Probably, but I made a decision there based on cost more than anything. But here, Bucky, there's no other version, right? This is just like the Black Widow and the Black Widow that's only artisan. So I'm glad I got it. This looks like a much improved version of the original. Although, like I said, I still love that original. Now, look, he does have the mask, which he did have, and I forget if because I have him with the unmasked sculpt, right now. So I have to check. I think he came with a second sculpt that included the mask pre-attached, and then you could attach the goggles too. So look, that's probably what's going to happen with the older one I have. I'm probably going to go with that alternate look with the goggles to have that alternate version displayed, and then there's no way I'm covering the sculpt for the Artisan one. But look, so I feel bad for anybody who had issues with the Q system. I know the Q system isn't great from Sideshow, or there are lots of issues with it. So yeah, I just, I managed to snag one of these, so I'm very happy about it. As far as the accessories, well, let's talk about this. This is awesome because, again, I do like to kind of pose up my figures a little bit, not in the most dynamic of poses, but especially figures with weapons like the rifles. I do like to have the rifle posed in the arms. So having the leather is definitely something that gives me a little bit of more comfort in terms of that, right? Obviously, the hair and the rolling eyes are something that we expect at these points being standard. The mask looks pretty awesome, right? The removable goggles and mask, but I just don't want to hide that sculpt. Although, that was kind of a great look for the Winter Soldier. The base with the Hydra symbol, I like that these. I'm still curious how these magnetic ones are going to turn out, but I do like the Hydra symbol on this one. And then look, as far as accessories, you get the standard weapons, right? I think you got all of these with the original as well. I don't think there's anything different in terms of weaponry. And then you do get 3 arms. You get one that's posable, and then 2 that are pre-posed, which I like that idea, right? Especially if people are concerned with seeing joints. I know some collectors do have that concern. I don't mind the joints at all, but I think with something like, for example, the original Thanos from Infinity War, right, with the gauntlet that you could get pre-posed with the gauntlet kind of up. I thought that was a great idea, and even with what we're seeing with that statue, Bruce Wayne, that's coming with the Dark Knight Rises armory, right? The pre-pose thing to just get you a better looking, visually aesthetic piece. I think that's awesome. So you're getting 3 arms and then the standard thing. So I think this is a great choice by Hot Toys, right? It's something that I think a lot of us have been asking for a while. The thing that concerns me, again, as I was mentioning, with everything that's coming down the line, it's like, yeah, Hot Toys is going to tackle all of those. We saw them reveal the licenses, but clearly they're going back. They're going back, and this is Marvel. I don't know what they're going to do with DC. I don't know what they're going to do with Star Wars either, right? We know that it's Revenge of the Sith, the anniversary this year, and they've already announced they're going to do something for that. So just be prepared. There's going to be a lot, but I'm very happy with the way this turned out. I do hope the sculpt gets improved maybe a little bit, but still a pretty awesome release. So let's see, what else do we have? What else do we have to discuss? Let's see. Let's keep going with these. So I'm getting the Hot Toys ones out of the way. Hot Toys are awesome. We know that, right? That's not a big deal. Now let's talk about this one, because this was one that's surprising me a little bit. And again, we're talking about these one-offs, right? That Hot Toys is doing more of. So we know the John Wicks, for example. We know they're doing the Alien figures. Listen, they did the Prey Predator, which I've already paid off, so I'm just waiting for that to ship. So Arcane League of Legends. I started watching the show. I thought the show was amazing. The animation alone, I'm not. You guys know, if you've watched the channel, that, for example, I didn't pick up any of the Across the Universe or Into the Spider-Verse figures, just because I drew the line at the animated, right? The What If figures too, I just didn't think they'd go well with the line. But the animation on this show, and it is a show, right? It's not a video game, although I guess it's slightly based on the video game since it is League of Legends. But the animation on the show is pretty. I don't know that I call it realistic, but it's about as close to a live action that I've seen in terms of animation. And the characters are also well done with a really good story. So Vi and obviously her sister Jinx at this point are up for pre-order. I don't know if Hot Toys is going to continue down this line, but this was one where when they started teasing these, I hadn't watched the show, and then I started watching the show, and it's changed my opinion on them. So these are the one-offs, right? And again, right, the sculpt looks good, the tattoos, all of that, right? The armor. There's a lot of detail on these, and the giant gauntlets too. Um, she's going to be a figure that just stands out, right? And I know the effect pieces for some reason. I think that's interesting that the effect accessories are pending licensing approval. Um, you'd think those would be a little bit of an afterthought, but look at those two figures together. That to me, when I start looking about how these figures are going to look, there's just something very, very special about these from a visual flair point of view, and they are cyberpunk, right? Kind of inspired, which I like, right? There used to be a comic book called was it steampunk? It was very much a cyberpunk kind of vibe to it that I loved. Unfortunately, it got canceled after like 4 issues, and they had an entire storyline. So it was one of those that just never went anywhere. But I remember the visuals on the page were pretty amazing, and that's what this show reminds me of. So, look, the figure itself without the gauntlets is pretty simple. It's well done with the detail on the belt and the tattoos, but once you put in those gauntlets, there's just something really, really impressive there. So for me, these figures went from they still look good to I'm not going to get them to I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up pre-ordering these, and both of them. There's something there's something unique about them that looking at the pictures again, it's just very appealing. And because I did enjoy the show, that makes it a lot more something that I'd like to pick up at this point. And again, just the sculpts. Um, I think anybody, even if they're not familiar with the show, would be impressed seeing these in hand. I know these aren't for everybody, but these are definitely very appealing for me. And again, having watched the show, there's definitely the interest has definitely grown a little bit on those. So let's see, where are we? Let me catch up with you guys really, really quickly. Let's see for Mitchell. Yeah, so we talked about that one already. Let's see. Hot Toys needs her. Yeah. The Jungle Hunter Predator. They've been teasing that one for a while, and the Clean T800 as well, right? I mean, we've got the battle damage. We've got the T1000. They keep teasing the Jungle Hunter, and the Jungle Hunter stand, right? The display stand that they had on that one showed the weapons from that final hunt, right? With Arnold's character. So listen, they're doing new Arnolds, so I would love it if we got a new Dutch, um, and actually it would be great if we got a Dutch from like a 2.0. Although I love that original Dutch, you can't pose the body for anything because it's just too hefty and it won't hold a pose, right? And you have to worry about like the rubber suit breaking. But still an amazing figure. I know a lot of people have done Feist and body swaps with that one, but I'm happy with that one. But I could use a 2.0. But what I'd really love for them to do would be the end scene Dutch from that movie with the mud and kind of all the ad hoc weapons that he makes for himself. That would be awesome, and that would be a great companion to that Jungle Hunter Predator. So hopefully those come soon, right? I know we're about to go into Chinese New Year, so maybe tonight we'll get one more announcement. And actually, while we're talking, let's see if we did get any announcement. Oh, we are going to talk about another announcement that just dropped. Look at that. Look at that. We're gonna let me find that. We'll finish talking about Vive for a little bit and catching up with you guys, and then we'll bring that one up. So let's see. So yeah, I agree. I want them to reissue that or release that Jungle Hunter for pre-order, and I want to see what changed with that one. No flake. That's awesome that you have no flaking with yours. Mine, I think I pre-posed him, and I don't know if you've posed him up. I left him in a pose, and I think that strain on the material probably caused some issues. I've got so many other figures with pleather that don't have any issue at all. So I was very surprised. There are only two figures that I've had like that. It's the Winter Soldier and the Wanda, the original Wanda from Age of Ultron, the leather jacket. Again, that one was surprising because I didn't really have her posed up, and it just started flaking on me. But the Blade, I've had Blade for forever since it came out. No issues with that one. The Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, no issues with that one. So it's very rare. So those two were very surprising for me. Yeah. I'm with you. Winter Soldier, especially in that Captain America Winter Soldier movie. I think that's the most badass he's ever been, right? Maybe to a degree in Civil War when he's trying to run away from the German police, but that Winter Soldier appearance is without a doubt one of his best appearances, if not his best. And I honestly, that movie probably remains my favorite MCU movie to date. I remember watching it, and look, I liked First Avenger, right? It was a great introduction to Captain America. It could have been hokey, and they actually made it really good. So credit to everybody who was involved with that. But I remember, I've made my wife watch every single Marvel movie with me, um, to the point where she actually enjoys them. But I remember she wasn't a big fan of Captain America, and I think I've told this story before. We were watching, we put on Winter Soldier, and just the opening scene or the opening fight scene when they're on the ship. I remember she turned to me and she said, "Is this the same guy?" She was so shocked, and she started liking that movie. That's one of her favorite Marvel movies as well, just because one, the storyline was great, the action sequences were amazing. Credit to again the Russos. That's why I'm glad they're back, right? As well in Marvel. Um, I think that there's something that's been missed, and I'm glad they're tackling two of the biggest pictures that they're doing at this point. But yeah, Winter Soldier, total badass. There was no doubt that I was going to get that 2.0. Nefty, we're all waiting for that one. They're just taking their time. Nefty, what's your take on the Mars Toys 66 Alfred being limited? Mars Toys and Nefty, I know you pick up a lot of these things, right? I know you pick up a lot of them. Um, Mars Toys being limited, I almost want to be like, at this point, just release some figures already. And I know the Riddler got released, right? The Riddler 2-pack, and everybody seems to be very happy with those. They look good. And Mars Toys, I think, as far as a third-party company goes, they're probably doing some of the better work out there at this point in time. That Alfred looks pretty good, the 66. The fact that he's limited, look, there are some rumors that some third parties don't even make the 1,000, unit mark at this point. So maybe this is just a case where it's a character that they didn't think would sell that much, so they're trying to limit it. I don't know. For me, not my cup of tea. Right? I grew up watching that too. Right? I would watch the reruns. All that went out the window as soon as '89 hit. Right? And it's almost like the westerns too. My dad used to watch, and he still does. He watches a lot of westerns, and he used to watch a lot of the old John Wayne westerns, which were great for their time, right? They were definitely amazing for their time, but when you go back and watch them compared to the Clint Eastwood westerns, Clint Eastwood, right? It brought a change in the genre where it went a little grittier. So for me, the 66 was just too hokey after that, after '89. So look, Mars Toys, they need to hurry up and do some other releases at this point. They should finish releasing their Mantis from the first Aquaman that's now been on pre-order for what, 3 years or more, or maybe I'm exaggerating, but yeah, and they've teased what else? They teased other figures from Jaws. They've teased other figures from Batman 66. At this point, I just just speed it up a little bit. Now, granted, I don't want the figures to suffer in terms of quality, which they seem to be doing well. So if maybe they just need to take a long time, let them take a long time. So Nefty, you and I are on the same page, man. I think you and I like everything. That's a problem. That's a problem when it comes to collecting. Um, Vi and Jinx are my two most anticipated releases. The show's amazing. Figures are beautiful. Like I said, when they first dropped the Jinx figure, I hadn't started watching it, and I thought she looks amazing, right? The weaponry, again, that steampunk look, and kind of the animated bandages and whatnot. That was pretty awesome. And without even seeing it, I think, and this is where even if you're not going to buy a figure, if it looks good, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying it looks good, right? And I thought that looked amazing, and I was always tempted to get it. Having said that, once you watch the show and realize how good the show is, it just makes those figures more appealing. So for me, these went from you know, middle of the list. Maybe I'll try to get them if they go on discount. To I feel like I have to have them. I have to order them. So definitely definitely looking to do that. Um, yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. If you think they're gonna do more from this line, or if it's just these two. I mean, it makes sense that they started with these two. There are other great characters, but at least these two I think make for for a great appearance. Nefty, I saw that. We're gonna talk about Hono Spidey a little bit. We're gonna do it. We're gonna talk about it. Um, Winter Collector, you had flaking on the original Bane. You know, I actually did not have flaking on my Bane, which is surprising. Uh, Granted, I don't think I had him in any major pose. I just have him with the his arms out, holding the and the jacket. Um, but I think I got lucky with that one. For some reason, that one's not flaking at all. Um, Fabs, that's what I'm talking about. They're black manta from Aquaman. They need to release that at this point, right? I mean, you know, Mars keeps teasing figures, Mars keeps teasing toys, and then we all get excited, but they still haven't released a ton of figures, right? That Black Manta, you know, I'm almost tempted to go and reach out to Kit because I know Kit has the relationship and be like, Kit, you know, what's going on? But yeah, they need to hurry up and release a couple of things at this point. All right, so we're caught up. So yeah, Vi again, very excited about this figure. I think it looks great. Um, so let's see what else, because we're gonna talk about this drop. Let's see. All right, let's stick with the Hot Toys. Hold on, I've gotta find this one though. I've got to go back and let's talk about the new Hono drop. Let's talk about it. Let me just pull it up at this point. All right. This is the first time I'm seeing it, so I'm reacting live with you guys for this one. So let's see. Where is my all right. This is hot off the press right now. Fresh drop from Hot Toys from Hono, and it looks like it's from the new show, from the new animated Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show. So we're getting a Spider-Man in the homemade suit. Um it's okay. I mean, listen, I have to watch the show. I have to watch the show. Um it looks decent at this point. Let's keep thumbing through. I mean the suit itself, right? I mean it's a t-shirt with sweats, right? It's that's what it is. And then the suit itself isn't. It's just there's no detail to it, right? It's like literally red. Um, so I guess very much in line with what you would expect from Hono. Very simple, not too crazy in terms of the detailing, right? We're not getting the patterns that we're getting on the MCU style suits. So that makes sense. The goggles are interesting. Um, Again, the webs too, right? They've got a very animated feel to them, which makes sense. These web shooters are interesting. I'm curious to see them on the show. Um, Very curious to see them because they are different. Look, the figure looks very posable as a Spider-Man should be. It's a very and it's called a homemade suit for a reason, right? He's wearing like knee pads, and it's not your refined suit that you're anticipating. I do like that the canister that he's got for the webbing at the back. Um, it looks all right. It looks okay. For me, I got to stay away from the Hono stuff. And see, this is a perfect example for me where yes, I'm a huge Marvel collector, but where do you draw the line? And for me, the animated stuff, I just can't. Right? It doesn't go um, with the figures I have now. Now, the video game line that they have going, that one is always a problem for me because that video game line. You take the Miles Morales, you take any of the Spidey figures from that one, and you put them in a shelf with all your MCU figures. They look like they belong, right? That's the problem with that line, and that's what makes that line so tempting for someone like me that collects Marvel. The Hono stuff, it just looks not bland, right? But it just doesn't match for me, right? Even the backpack is plastic. It's not fabric, right? If you remember the original homemade suit, or not the original homemade suit, the original suit from not No Way Home. Far From Home, or from the very first one. Jesus, my mind is slipping. It's getting late. But if you remember that one, it was a fabric backpack, and he had all these accessories, right? Now you're paying less money for this, right? So that makes sense, and it's based on an animated show. I'm curious to see how the show looks. To me, though, it doesn't belong. It's just not going to go with what I want. So I'm curious what you guys think about this, right? Not heavy on the accessories as expected, just some extra lenses. Um, all right, so they're hawking this entry grade thing again, which depends on price. 1/6 scale, high quality, highly articulated, as well it should be, right, for a Spider-Man figure. Bendable web strings. See, that's the other thing. And we've seen it before, right? The bendable elements on certain figures, right? Like, but it does feel a little bit cheap. Swappable eye plates. They're not hugely different. Um, It's okay, right? The web shooters, the web fluid canister. The look is interesting, but I'm more curious to see it on the show than to get the figure. Now, this could be a case where I watch the show and then I end up having to buy the figure because the show is that good. That's always a possibility. So I'm not gonna say no to this, but I'm trying to draw the line at Hono. I'm trying um, not to go crazy with this one. So let's see what you guys are saying here. Um, Nefty. Yeah, it's from the new show. So, do we know when that show is airing? I feel like it's coming up soon, right? That figure's definitely going to pop on the shelf. Winter Collector. Are we talking about what's it called? Are we talking about this one, or are we talking about the Arcane figures? Because this one, I don't know that this one would pop. I feel like this one would get lost in the mix if you have a ton of Spider-Man figures. Homecoming, thanks, Fabs. Yes, Homecoming. And I'm actually looking at the homemade suit from Homecoming too. Um, that one's pretty cheap as well, right? It's like him in PJs at that point in sweatpants, but that one just has a little bit more oomph than this one, as it should be. Um, yeah, yeah, Winter Collector. That's the thing. I'm like, this show, I don't know that this is actually going to be linked fully into the MCU. I think it was supposed to at some point, and now who knows, right? With Marvel kind of redirecting, I'll be curious to watch the show. If the show is fantastic and phenomenal, just like Arcane, I might be more tempted. But right now, this is a pass for me. It's great that Hono is still ongoing at this point, and it's still a thing. But for the moment, I'd say it's an easy pass for me. It looks okay, but just Hono is a no go for me at this point. Um, oh, you were talking about this. It is pretty colorful. Look, the biggest thing is the yellow. To me, it's the web shooters with the wires. That's pretty interesting. That's something I haven't seen from any of the Spider-Man figures themselves at this point. So I'll be curious what the show is like. But right now, for me, it's a pass. Um, but it ticks the boxes, right? For what a Spider-Man figure should be. So, um, yeah, that's pretty much it at this point on that one. All right. So now that we're done with Hot Toys, we got a little bit more to go, and this is where you guys are probably going to start tuning out. And if you do, that's fine too. But um, I'm excited about these guys. So let's start with the teaser from a company that's quickly becoming my favorite. So DID, right? They've been around forever. Military is their forte, right? I don't think they stray beyond that. But what they started doing recently, and the reason why I've started picking up more and more of these, is they're starting to do military figures that are based on cinematic versions of characters. For example, we got the F-18 pilot, which was Maverick from Top Gun Maverick, right? We got the John Dunbar Civil War figure, which was basically the Kevin Costner character from Dances with Wolves, right? So um, they're starting to kind of ease into these movies, into these military movies, and they're doing. They also did the Mel Gibson character, right, from We Were Soldiers. So they called it a Vietnam era, Vietnam Colonel, right, Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore. So based on a real character, but if you look at everything, they basically based it on the movie. So they're very much leaning into the cinematic military world, and they're getting away with some of it to a degree. Now, this is their tease of the next F-14 pilot, which I can't wait to get, right? I love the pilots. I have the version of Iceman from Hot Toys that was released 15 years ago or more at this point. And look, you can see the man here, right? So they're blurring out the Iceman on the helmet, but you can recognize the flight helmet, right? This is Iceman. This is the Val Kilmer character from the original Top Gun, which I know Fabs hasn't watched, and I think you should totally watch it. And look, this is where we go back into the nostalgia thing. Growing up, I can remember Top Gun being on. If you were in New York, it was WPix 11, right? Every Friday night or Saturday night, because Friday nights they would have some movies, and definitely Saturday night at 8 p.m. they would, after the news and whatever, they would always have a movie, and it would always be Top Gun, right? There were always a couple. It was Top Gun. I'm trying to remember what other ones it was, but Top Gun was always there. It was always there. I think Hunt for Red October was there. So if you remember these, right, I can't tell you how many times we watched Top Gun, on network television because it was the most popular thing ever. So I grew up watching this. So I love that movie, right? I thought Top Gun Maverick was great, but to be able to go back now and get newer versions of those characters, and an Iceman Val Kilmer in a new updated DID suit is going to be awesome. So I'm very excited about this tease right now from DID. So yeah, NFD. Military figures are great, and again, right, what's really happening here is you're starting to see DID get into cinematic military, right, and that's what's really impressive because listen, sky's the limit. How many movies have we gotten based on based on military stories at this point? So that's really, really something that to keep in mind. DID is really good. They've been around for a long time. When it comes to military figures, they used to basically focus almost exclusively, I want to say, on World War II figures. And recently they started, getting into the modern and into the Vietnam era. Like Fab said, right, the likeness isn't great. The Tom Cruise that they did from Top Gun Maverick is probably the best likeness they've done to date, and it's helped a lot when you put on the sunglasses. Right, once you put on the sunglasses, that's the best look. Then it looks like him. But without the sunglasses, right, and even the Mel Gibson they did and the Kevin Costner, right, they get away with it because these are supposed to be military figures. You're supposed to know who they are, but they're not giving you the best scope. So don't go in there expecting a Hot Toys level quality figure, right? And again, what makes these really appealing is because they're based on movies, and their website looks flimsy. It does, but they've been around forever, Nefty. If you go in, they've been around forever. Winter Collector. I collect military a little bit. They're some of the most impressive figures you can get. They're a nightmare to put together. I can't tell you how many times I've cursed putting those together, and they're sometimes multiple hours or sometimes multi-day projects to really assemble. But once you've got them together, they tend to be some of the most impressive figures you've got. Now, what I like about this guy and what I like again about what DID is doing is they're going into that movie thing, and they're definitely hitting that nostalgia factor. So you look at Iceman, right, from Top Gun. Yes, some military collectors are going to be looking at an F-14 pilot at this point with updated gear and the kind of level of accuracy that DID is known for. But if you're a movie fan like I am, you're looking at it as it's Iceman, right? It's Val Kilmer from Top Gun. So for me, that's the appealing thing that they're doing here. So I can't wait for this guy to go up on pre-order. Again, like Fab said, likeness is not the best, but it's pretty good overall. So let's stick with DID. And this is gonna go to Fab's point right now about likeness. So DID also just released their Maverick, right, Captain or Lieutenant Pete Mitchell at this point from the original Top Gun. So you could see right now a couple of issues with this one. The uniform looks fantastic. The likeness, right? Is it supposed to be? Is it a young Tom Cruise? I kind of see it, but that's the thing with DID. It's always kind of, right? And then look, the uniform looks great, right? With the name patch, the shoulder rank, I forget what they're called, right? The hat, the helmet, the service hat. The issue with this figure is it's the exposed joints. If you hate exposed joints, you're gonna hate this figure, right? Um, so that's the first thing that stands out there. So if you wanted to showcase your Maverick in his duty uniform, right, from that scene where he's basically at trial, essentially, uh, just be prepared to show those exposed joints, which aren't the best at all. Um, but it is Maverick at that point. Um, hold on, I lost my tab. Where am I? So let's keep going because there's a lot, right? But then they're also giving you the alternate look, which is the leather jacket, right, with the leather jacket and the sunglasses. So look, this is where sunglasses might save your likeness. He's got that very slick back hair, which is very reminiscent of the way he looked in the movie. So DID trying to come in here. The one thing I hate, and I'll tell you right now, is this. Let's go back. The bike looks amazing. The motorcycle, if you could get that to go with the figure, it's a home run. But this isn't being offered, right? I checked. I was looking for this to see if DID was giving us the bike because I would have gotten the whole set, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like someone did a custom for DID. I'm looking to see if that person ever puts it up for sale because this looks incredible. Now, this is where we go with the likeness, right? It looks kind of like him, and it does have the big eyebrows that he had in the movie too, but it's not exactly him, right? From certain shots, it looks fine. This is the problem, though. Like, if you want to show him without the jacket, you're going to be exposing all these joints, and those look ugly. They just look ugly. Let's be honest. I usually don't hate joints, but this is where I'll give Hot Toys credit. And for anybody who criticizes Hot Toys with their exposed joints, I would challenge them to take a look at this. Right, and I appreciate DID, right? DID does great work, but these exposed joints are nasty, right? They are like fully exposed, you're fully open. So when people criticize Hot Toys for their exposed joints, yes, but at least Hot Toys I feel like does a better job trying to mask them. Right here, I mean, even this is just straight plastic, right? This is just it's a standard off the shelf body. Now it could be part of the prototype, right? But it doesn't even match the hands. With DID, right, which is a little surprising because with the Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore that DID did, the Mel Gibson character, they had sculpted forearms that matched the skin tone. So is this something that DID is going to look to change? Who knows? With them, I wouldn't expect that. So if you're thinking about getting this figure, just be prepared. For me, if I get this guy, it's going to be to wear with the jacket. The jacket is the look, right? This is the look for this figure at this point, right? The jacket with all the patches and with the real or the faux fur collar, the dog tags, right? That's kind of screaming, Maverick from that original movie. And again, I just hate that they're not giving you the bike. The bike would make this figure 100%. But for some reason they're not making it. Look, again, the uniform looks fine, right? DID always excels at those. They are giving you his helmet too, right? And they're blurring out the Maverick. This is interesting because I'm guessing they're going to give us another Maverick in flight suit. They're showing him with the flight jacket, but that's not in the set. And like I said, with the sunglasses, this looks awesome. And with the jacket, that's where this figure stands out. If you're going to show him without the jacket, probably not. Those exposed joints, those I'm not a fan of. And then again, right, you do get the helmet, and I think they're teasing another version, right? At this point, it looks like they're doing Iceman. They're giving us in flight suit, so I wouldn't be surprised to get a Maverick from the first movie in flight suit. So again, right, let's just get into because DID gives you tons of pictures. I hate that they're giving you those pictures of the bike because they're not giving you the bike. That's a total miss. But look, for me, all the accessories are great. I think the jacket is real leather, which is also a highlight. And then you got his crazy looking boots. But it's a great looking figure. And again, if you're a fan of the movie, I think this is probably the best Top Gun, the best Maverick we've gotten. And if you think there's anyone better, let me know. But for me, this is going to be another day one pre-order. I think it's already up at Kit, so I have to order it soon, actually. But I just regret that they're not giving us the stuff. Yeah, I thought about that. The problem is, and what they're doing here is, I think DID is going to be true to scale. I think they're going to give you a smaller body, right? Because Tom Cruise isn't a tall guy. So I think they're going to give you a more to scale body. I could be wrong. So then it becomes like you got to find something similar. But maybe if there's a body that would be an alternate, I just right now the joints are kind of nasty. For me, I'm going to pick this up at 1.6 Kit. I think he's got it up for pre-order right now, so I've got to have him, and then I just have to keep an eye out to see if they're going to do the what is it, the bike, because I think him with the bike, that's a home run right there. All right, so let's see what else do we got, because we're going to stick with the nostalgia, and I told you we're going to be heavy on the nostalgia this one, and this is one that I'm extremely happy that wait, let's see. There we go. I'm extremely happy that Asmus kind of fixed. Because, oh man, when I saw the first preview picture of this, I thought this looks horrible, right? You know, it's almost like they butchered him, but it looks like they did a better job. Maybe that was an early one. So Snake Plissken from Escape from New York. Look, we talking about Top Gun, right? This is another classic 80s movie. I loved watching it, right? And the character of Snake is that iconic, like, I don't give a damn about anything character that's forced into a position. Look, does the movie hold up? Probably not. Right, the action's dated, but there's just something about it, right? From Snake and what Kurt Russell did with that character, right? It's obviously a John Carpenter film. And then you've got, if you watch the movie, you know the chandelier car, right? The Duke of New York's car when he's driving in, and that iconic music too. There's just so much to like about this. And this is where I'm surprised that these companies are jumping back, right? DID's hitting you with the nostalgia factor, going back to Top Gun. Asmus, right, who's been known for Lord of the Rings, is giving us a Snake Plissken. And I really do think from the 80s, this is easily one of Kurt Russell's two most iconic roles, right? The second one being his character from Big Trouble in Little China, right? So I'd love to get a new version of that because the Sideshow one was kind of horrible. So hopefully this is a good indicator. Now look, just like with InArt, just like with Artisan, just like with all these companies, rooted wool hair seems to be the next standard. So Asmus put up this rooted hair version for order, right? I think the likeness is there. He looks great, right? He's got the seamless arms, and he's got the timer for the wrist as well. And what I like about that too is it hides the joints. It hides the joints. So when we talk about, when we look at that DID figure, and then we look at what Asmus is doing here, credit to Asmus for giving us seamless arms, and then giving us the wrist elements to hide the joints, right? The timer and all that gear. And then as far as weapons, right, he's got that revolver, he's got the I think it's the mech. I forget what it is, but it looks awesome, right? The zipper detail, not the best, but the patch, right? The hair doesn't look bad either. I think the likeness is definitely there to Kurt Russell. I like seeing him with the weapons. What I really like as we keep going, that Asmus did, right? So movable eyeball action, they're just giving you a singular. Makes sense, right? Pretty funny, but that makes sense. So look, this is already sold out. Sideshow has it up for order, and I think a lot of other retailers have it. And it's just a standard base. But I ordered from Asmus to get this base. Yeah, it's a little hokey, right? It's got the nameplate. It's got Statue of Liberty, newspaper on the cab, etc. I'm a sucker for these diorama pieces, and for me, this was something that, for no added cost, I was going to get. So I ordered this figure direct from Asmus, and I think this is limited to 300. I don't know if it's 300 rooted and then 300 standard because they did do a sculpted version, but I had to get this one as well. So I ordered direct from Asmus, but I think it's sold out. And the great thing, this is what I wanted to look at, the leather jacket that he wears, which I think I'm going to have on my figure. It's real leather. So credit to Asmus for doing that, right? And then even with the seamless arms, this would be a great display to have him, right? Like he is for most of the movie. But that jacket is awesome. So Asmus got my money. I think they did their Crown series, from what I see, what they did with the Gandalf figure was actually pretty amazing as well. So that was one where you know, I'm proceeding with some optimism there that we're definitely going to get a good figure. Yeah, I think Asmus did a great job, and I think with the Crown series, they've been doing pretty awesome. So for me, a day one pre-order, already pre-ordered. Again, heavy onto that 80s, right, mindset. So yeah, very excited about that one. I think if they could do that other character, if they could do his version from Big Trouble in Little China, that would be awesome. Right, and then I'm curious what else they're going to go into, because when you start thinking 80s, you start thinking, well, there's so many other movies they could do, right? Like I said, Big Trouble in Little China would be awesome. Then you got Jean-Claude Van Damme, and let's get into that guy. Now, this is not up for order. Yeah, I think it's going up for order in February, but they've teased him before from Caustic Plastic, right, from Infinite Statue and Collectibles. Frank Dukes from Bloodsport. Awesome movie. This is another one of those movies that if you were watching in the 80s and the 90s was always on WPix 11, right? Bloodsport was always on. It was always on. So it was one that was very difficult to miss, and I love it, right? And my understanding is Caustic is looking to also do Chun-Li, right? The bad guy from the movie, which would be awesome, right? That guy was in everything too during the 80s. So it'd be great to have him in a figure format. So look, first thing I'll say, and look, this is they're calling it a luxury action figure. We know Caustic just teased that they're doing rooted Conan the Barbarian figures, right? They teased it. They said they've got the license. It's coming, right? Universal gave them some stuff. This gives me a lot of hope for those figures. Excuse me. So it looks like they're trying to create like a sweaty sheen on the face. And that's the only thing with Caustic that gives me a little concern. The paint apps on the face sculpts are a little overdone at some points, right? It almost feels like it looks almost a little too plasticky, but this is a prototype, so we'll see what the final product looks like. But this looks pretty impressive, right? The eyes look awesome. I think the likeness is there to young JCVD. It does look like they're rotating eyes. Again, it's the paint, right? They're trying to recreate that sweaty look. Now the figure's body, and I don't know if they mentioned this with the Conan the Barbarian figure that they're going with medical grade silicone. So I don't know if that's what they're doing here. But this looks great, right? And again, for a figure like this or Conan the Barbarian, if Caustic can deliver something like this, they've got my money, right? Then they've got the alternate look, right? That screaming look. This one, I don't know. I think I like the more stoic look, but it's great. You're gonna give me an extra head sculpt, that's fine. Posability looks fine, right? They're going with the clear stand. I don't know if this is a crotch grabber or a waist grabber at this point, but this looks great. Obviously, the biggest issue is you still have the joints at the feet and at the hands, but still looks awesome. Surprisingly, I think I like this one with the gi and the belts. I think this looks pretty incredible. So look, it's just a couple of teaser pictures right now, but Caustic is jumping very heavily into the 80s, right? Bloodsport. I ordered their what figure did I order? Their Braddock as well. So from Missing in Action. So I ordered that figure. They're leaning heavily. I'm waiting for the Conan the Barbarian ones. With all this in mind, 100% I'm going to end up getting this figure. I'm going to get the Bloodsport. I'm going to get the Conans. And I guess to end the stream, right, because this is pretty much it. These companies beyond Hot Toys, and Hot Toys is still doing it, right? They're still going back to Terminator and Aliens, and obviously they're teasing, the Hunter Predator from Predator. But a lot of these companies are starting to get into um, going back and doing some of these figures, right? So, look, just today, Top Gun, two Top Gun figures, one already up for pre-order, another one in pre-release, right? That's just being teased. Then we've got Snake Plissken from Escape from New York. Now we've got Frank Dukes from Bloodsport. We know Conan the Barbarian is coming in. So I'm just happy that some of these companies are stepping in. And look, they're stepping up their game. Um, Iconic has been always something that's always been on my radar, but again, the sculpts aren't the best, or haven't been. But if they can start delivering some good products like this, I'm gonna be all in for these movies, because Bloodsport was one of those nostalgia movies. Conan the Barbarian, same thing, right? And then I'd love to see them continue to expand that line into some of those other great action movies, right? That we had. Stallone Shop hasn't really done much. They noted that they're going to be doing more Rocky figures, but at this point, it's been kind of quiet. And the reason I bring up Stallone Shop is because I think Caustic does the Stallone Shop figures. So I had a feeling that we might get beyond the Rocky figures, right? There's so many Stallone licenses, like Demolition Man would be great to get some figures from that movie. Cliffhanger. And again, I know some people are going to say, who's asking for this? And you know what? I'm asking for them because I grew up watching those movies, so I'd love to have those in the collection. Doesn't mean we're going to get them, but seeing these figures, right, starts giving me like some thoughts that maybe we're going to continue getting into these movies that other companies aren't really going to be doing at this point. So yeah, look, it's exciting time. It's an exciting time to basically get into these figures, um, and we'll just see where things go. So let's see. So that thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I can't believe I stayed up this late. Um, I'll be on Fabs on with Fabs on Tuesday. Finally, hopefully things back to normal. Like I said, flu knocked me out for a couple weeks. Then I had a work event. Then my wife got sick. Then I had family visiting. Um, it was just one of those crazy situations, and that's why, like, I was supposed to do my top 5 figures of the year, the top 5 that I was anticipating. I didn't even get a chance to do any of those, so at this point I'm just going to pick up on reviews, and we'll go from there. But yeah, so look, there's a lot coming as far as reviews. I think the first one up is going to be the Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp. I've got the Limb Toys Nathan Drake that should be coming in tomorrow. The 3-0 T60 armor, right, and then from Hot Toys I've got Captain Picard from X06. So yeah, I'm still doing X06. Lady Pool. There's tons of reviews coming in. I'll probably give everybody an update on those as well. But yeah. So just to wrap up, Nefty, yeah, and I'm not getting Star Ace. No, sorry, Nefty, not for me. And Winter Collector, thanks for hanging out for a little bit. That's much appreciated. And I know Fabs is still around, so thanks everybody for hanging out. And then yeah, hopefully we'll touch base next week. So again, thanks for spending a little time with me. All right, have a good night, everyone.